Business Foundations for Mums with me, Kate Butcher, is the podcast to listen to if you are a mum who is ready to launch your business, not sure where to start, or wanting to turn that sideline into something more serious. It will be full of practical tips, mindset advice, and inspirational and honest interviews with mums who are juggling business and motherhood, supporting mums in business to turn your dream into a reality. Hello. So we're here today to welcome to the podcast Vicki Bowden. Bowden. I've known you so long and it's never actually crossed my mind to check exactly how to pronounce it. So Vicki is a multiple business owner and busy mum, and she's here today to talk to us about how she juggles all of her businesses and her family and stays sane in doing so. So welcome to the podcast today, Vicki.
Hi, thank you for having me. Super excited.
Fantastic. We're very excited to have you. I'm very excited to have you here. I say we, as if there's more than one of us, but it's just me. So hey ho. So first of all, to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your businesses? I was going to say businesses, multiple, and your family. Give us a bit of a summary of who you are.
Yeah, so I am a married mum of two. My children are 5 and 2. In a previous life, I was a teacher and then had a career change for my children. And my businesses are Vicki Bowden photography. So I specialise in newborn photography mostly, but have other aspects as well. And also Early Years Mum, which is a sort of early years consultancy business where I offer support and courses for parents who'd like to find out more about child development and education. And I also a freelance blog for Red Kite Days Buckinghamshire. So 3 hats at the moment.
Fantastic. And in terms of your children and your family, you said that you were a teacher, but then you decided to shift careers. So what sort of ages were your children when you decided to launch a business?
I never thought that I would do anything other than teaching. I've wanted to be a teacher since I was 5 and loved my teachers. And there's something that just changed when I started a family. And I loved my job. And it all changed when I went back after my maternity leave, having my first little boy. And I suddenly had this other purpose, and I didn't want to be with other people's children rather than my own, and that was the biggest thing for me. And I was senior management as well, so I worked very long hours, and I would have to wake him up in the morning, take him out of his bed in his pajamas to my parents and his childcare, and then I would get home and he would already be getting ready for bed. And I was just missing out on so many things that I just knew that something had to change. And I think it was because my mum had a career change later in life and became self-employed and started her own business. And I watched my sister-in-law do the same. And she's slightly younger than me, actually. And she was self-employed and built her own business. And I sort of supported them with building up their brands and thought, I want a bit of this. They manage their own hours, and I just had that feeling that there's more out there and I could do something different and break away from that 9 to 5. And it was a really strong call. So I had to kind of think about what I might do. And I sort of built an exit plan, I suppose, so that by the time I had my second child, I could resign and walk away from teaching. And I had built my business enough to be able to chase that instead.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you what your motivation was for starting your business, but you pretty much just answered it there for me. So it was really about spending time with your family, spending time with your children. That was your primary focus.
Yeah, I think I just got really burnt out as well. And you don't always recognise how burnt out you are until you step back. And I just realised actually I was falling out of love with my job. And I wanted to be able to do the school run when he was starting school and preschool and nurseries, and I wanted to be able to go to some of the groups with him and just enjoy him, and be less grumpy with my husband because I was less stressed out by trying to fit too many hours into a day.
Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. It's a great reason to want to start your own business, is to manage your own hours. And I think a reason that a lot of mums do decide to start their own business, it seems to be amongst the women I know, certainly, although I do tend to surround myself with mums in business, but it tends to be a very significant time in many people's lives to make that decision. And really interesting as well that you say that you'd always imagined being a teacher. You never imagined that you would do anything else.
No, never imagined I'd do something else. And I think it was partly having my own baby. It's funny actually, because my sister-in-law, my brother, had a photo shoot for their baby who was born about 6 months before my first. And I looked at the photos and I thought, I can do that. And it was just a little part of me thinking, I should do this. So I started to just self-teach myself online, and I booked on some courses in person as well and online. And I realised actually I could do it. And I've always been a bit of a technology geek, so anything techie was right up my street. And I've always loved photos and had cameras since I was small. And it made me think, yeah, that I can do this. There's something else that I don't have to be tied into teaching. It's okay to do different things and change your mind and change your path.
Absolutely. That's, again, a really good point. I think it's very easy, particularly once you start a business as well, to start to pivot or change direction. And it's something that a lot of people that I've worked with found, that they start a business with the aim of doing one thing and end up doing something completely different, which they absolutely love. But something that initial new business has led them into. And I think it's really important to be open-minded about what you want to do, what you're going to do, what you're going to adapt to do.
Yeah, mine's changed loads since. If I think back to my first sort of ideas, I really wanted to do the baby in a basket with some flowers and that, and it's just not me, and I couldn't do it, and it actually wasn't what I loved. So my business has changed a lot and developed a lot into actually something that's really true to, I don't know, true to me, I suppose.
And how would you describe your photography style now?
So it's funny because it's developed out of having my two children, and particularly after my second, it took a bit of a different direction, because my real underlying thing is it's about mum and baby's well-being during my sessions. So I don't want to drag mum out for a newborn session, 10 days postpartum, when actually all she wants to do is curl up on her bed and feel comfy and have someone bring her a cup of tea. I really struggled after the birth of my second, and I would never have got to a studio with a 1-week-old baby and a toddler. I wouldn't have got out the house on time. I wouldn't have packed everything I needed to pack, and I would have felt really pressured to be the perfect mum for the camera. So now my style is very relaxed and very friendly, and I've got a real passion for sort of postnatal care, and it just puts mum's needs and baby's needs first.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're so right. It's easy to forget, I think, after a long time. It's 6 years since my youngest was a newborn. And you do forget that it's a really difficult time, and just day-to-day functioning, having a shower, those kind of things are really hard to manage, aren't they? And yeah, I think it's fantastic that your business is adapting to the mums and the babies. Amazing. Thank you. So, in terms of starting your business, can you remember whether you had any particular fears when you were thinking about starting a business before you launched? And did they hold you back at all?
Do you know what? That's really funny. I thought it was going to be really easy. And I don't think my fears kicked in until I started. And then I realised it wasn't as easy as I maybe thought it was going to be. And I'm a big one for imposter syndrome, looking at everybody else around me and just thinking, I can't do this. I should be a teacher again. How dare I go and change my mind? This isn't me. I'm a fake. That was my and that still creeps in sometimes.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is something that we all face, I think, at some point. I've only ever met one person, I think, who said that they didn't have any concept of what it was. But from the conversations I've had with so many women, mums, not mums. It's something that women in particular really do feel, and it does creep in even when you've worked on it loads, doesn't it? I know you've done a lot of work on it, but like you say, it still can creep in. So how do you manage it now when it does creep in?
That's a really interesting one. So I had my confidence really knocked when I changed jobs, when I resigned from teaching, because that was my identity, that was who I was. So I try now really hard not to look at my competition. So I've unfollowed a lot of people on Instagram and things like that, and on social media, who I was previously aspiring to be like, because actually I think constantly flooding myself with their images and how they're doing a better job of social media or whatever it is than what I'm doing wasn't really helping me. And I'm better to just stay with my little bubble of people that I trust and know, to get feedback and things and see my own improvement. Definitely looking back on old images and things like that, and my first flyers or gift cards and marketing things, and then looking at how they are now, is the best measure for me. I mean, if I show you my first photos of, me posing my little boy, for example, and he's 5 now, they were horrendous. I mean, laughable to try and say I'm a professional. So I think for me, just to see how far I've come and not compared to other people.
Absolutely. Comparisonitis is, it's a killer, isn't it? It's an absolute killer for so many, again, women, mums. We all, I think, are guilty of comparing ourselves to others around us. I heard a really great analogy on a podcast I listened to a couple of years ago now, I think. And they were basically, I can't even remember whose podcast it was on, but it was a guest that they had. And they were basically saying that it's just because somebody has an amazing website doesn't mean they have a successful business behind it. Just because someone puts incredible photos on Instagram doesn't mean they're getting the clients. Just because someone has huge amounts of followers doesn't mean that they're converting. And what we see of other people's businesses, we tend to look at that person's amazing website, that person's beautiful photos on social media, that person's following numbers, and think, I need to be all of those things. Whereas potentially each of them might be just one of those things, but they might also, you never know what's going on behind that image that people put up. People are very quick to put up it on social media, in both personal lives and in business, about their successes and the things that are going really well. But a lot of time people don't share their struggles, and it can be really easy to compare.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, especially being a photographer, I know how to make a photo look good. And I will show my best ones. And there are some that come up my camera which are awful, and I won't share them because I want to show my best work. But that's partly the reason why on my social media, I do lives quite a lot, because that's my way of just being a bit more me, and there's no mask, and I'm not a big one for wearing makeup. I never have been. And I don't consider myself to be a girly girl either. So I'm just in a plain t-shirt and some jeans. That's me. Take me as I am. And so I use my Facebook lives and things particularly as a way of sort of breaking down that barrier of perfection that you can kind of sometimes see on that social media platform, where everything looks as how you want it to be and all perfect.
And that's what makes you relatable to all the other mums around you. Definitely. I mean, certainly I watch a lot of your Facebook lives on your various platforms. And yeah, it's what, I can relate to you, because not only you're somebody I've met and I know, but the things you talk about are normal, and it's just you doing a quick Facebook live about something, and it's about something, you taking your children to the park or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's totally relatable, which is so important, I think. Thank you. So what would you say is your biggest challenge, either now or maybe in the past when your children were at a different age? What has been or is the biggest challenge for you, juggling business and parenting?
Sleep deprivation. No doubt. I didn't realise how lucky I was that my first child slept until I had my second, who could not be more different. And so I resigned, to sort of give a time scale, I resigned from my teaching role to finish in the Easter when I was pregnant with my second. I then had a term or so of sort of school term at home with my eldest before having my second in October. He then started preschool for a few mornings. I had some maternity leave with her to build the business. And then just when she started sort of getting old enough to then try and do some preschool or some nursery sessions, we had COVID. So I don't feel like I've really had a good go of having no children here, for example, during the day, to really give my business a go. And the sleep deprivation was massive after my second, after Millie. She just doesn't sleep. She still doesn't, and she's 2.5. So to have a clear mind to achieve anything in a day was just so difficult. And I still battle that now. But I've kind of worked out certain times when I can get up in the morning and I feel like, yes, today I could be productive, and I try and really make the most of it. And on the other days where I feel just completely like a zombie, I know not to even bother trying, because I'm just not going to get anywhere, and I'll get cross that I haven't achieved anything, and just to kind of give in on those days, because sleep deprivation is just unreal.
Is it giving in, or is it giving yourself a rest?
Well, giving us, I suppose, stop. Okay, I'm one for a list, and I know you very well, Kate. You're one
I like a list.
And it's something we've talked about a lot, because obviously I've known you for a long time as well. And I would try to achieve too much in a day, particularly on no sleep and with a toddler or a baby. And I would write myself these lists that had maybe 10, 15 things that were all business specific, not even anything to do with the house or the kids. And it's not surprising I was never going to achieve them, because I mean, she would sleep for 40 minutes maximum and probably in the car. So we actually had our Wi-Fi extended to reach to our driveway.
Amazing.
Because I spent so much time in the car with her asleep, having to drive her to sleep. And I could then sit with my computer on my lap in the passenger seat and work from the car on the driveway. And it's having that craving to want to be spending time in your business, and frustrated that you're not getting the time to do it, is what I found really hard to juggle.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've just showed the amazing versatility of mums to adapt to their situation, to sit in the car so your little one doesn't get woken up with your laptop, and to have your Wi-Fi extended so that you can do so. It's just brilliant. I mean, it's when you're a mum, you have to adapt, don't you? You have to find ways to adapt to fitting in your child's routine or your child's needs and your business. And that's a perfect example of a way that you've done so.
No, one of the things that really helped me, and I know you do the same, is audiobooks. So it was a kind of another way of feeling like I was achieving something in a day when I was having a really tired day, or she's very clingy as a baby as well, or just a really needy day with her, and I needed some headspace. And it was a way to feel like I was still learning something and still developing myself. So my self-development from the last 2 years has been massive, because I've just listened to so many audiobooks. But by having the wireless headphones, little pods, and just keeping one in, so I pretty much always have one ear in, from when I wake up to when I go to bed, because I can just tap it to answer the phone. And my family are always calling. We've got a huge family. But also I can have an audiobook just running in the background. And if it's one I really have to concentrate on, then it's better if I'm out with a buggy and someone's asleep. But if I'm pottering around the kitchen and stuff, I can kind of do it all quicker if I'm distracted.
Yeah, I find exactly the same. Yeah, I exactly the same. I have a headset I wear. I mean, this one's obviously for recording, but I have a single headset I wear with a microphone, so that when I'm working, I can just answer a call if need be, when I'm doing client work. and if I need to talk to a client about something, I can have, full fingers available for the laptop whilst I'm talking to my client. But then when I don't have that on, exactly the same. I have a little set of earbud things. And when I'm hanging out the washing, when I'm cooking, when I'm doing anything, then there's always an audiobook or a podcast on. I do a lot of listening, definitely.
Yes,
Talking of audiobooks, do you have a top audiobook you would recommend for a mum who is at the early stages of business that could really help, or a top 2, 3?
Okay. So ones that really spoke to me, I'm not sure if they're busy. So maybe can I do 3? Because they're all different things. So the first one, business wise, would be Profit First.
Amazing book.
Because it just really helped me understand money. And I mean, I remember asking you back in my very early days lots of questions about money, which I would have thought some 11-year-olds probably know the answer to in school now, the way they do school. I felt so silly asking some questions, but no one ever told me, and I never had to think about it before. So Profit First I found really useful. In terms of self-development, I would say Untamed. It can be quite hard going to listen to or to read, but there were certain chapters that just really spoke to me, and just those little one-liners that help you with your self-doubt or the way you see the world. There's a few that really made me stop and think and rewind and make a bookmark of it and sort of tell myself those things. And then in terms of motherhood, Happy Mum, Happy Baby.
I've not read that one or listened to it.
I'm a big fan of Giovanna Fletcher. Partly because I used to love McFly, and I still do, and I'm going in October to their concerts, and she's married to Tom from McFly.
Fantastic.
That's how I got into listening to her. But she just talks really honestly about motherhood, and she's got 2 books, but one of them is also like a diary to her children. And it's okay to say that actually sometimes your children are really hard work, and I think everyone needs to hear that.
Very true. Very true. Fantastic. Those are all some, really good recommendations. The first 2 are books that I've listened to. The first one you mentioned, Profit First, is by, I'm not even sure how to pronounce his surname, Mike Malievich, I think it is. And Profit First, I totally agree. It's a system I've implemented in my business. I actually came across it through a membership I was in with a lady called Catherine Morgan, who has a podcast called In Her Financial Shoes. And then through that, I also met my accountant, who is a Profit First accountant. And she really helped me to implement it in my business. So that's my accountant, Hetty Verney, if anyone wants a recommendation for a brilliant Profit First accountant, and only one of, I believe, 8 accredited Profit First accountants in the UK. So it's a fantastic system to implement for anyone starting business or at the early stages of business. And I suppose just to give anyone listening a really quick summary of it, if they don't know what it is, it's about a system of putting aside money so that you've always got money there for tax. You've always got money to take home for yourself as a business owner. And there's always money there for profit in the business as well. So it's ensuring that you're covering all of those things first, and then your expenses come out of what's left, rather than the other way round, where you earn all your money, you have all these expenses which build up and build up and build up, and then suddenly you find you haven't got enough to take home at the end of the month, or you haven't got enough when the tax bill comes in. So it's about tucking away all of that money first into different places so that it's there and ready, and you don't get a nasty shock when your tax bill arrives. So that's a great recommendation. Untamed, you mentioned as well, by Glennon Doyle. Which is fantastic. Really good book. I love the anecdote at the beginning, which is it a cheetah? I can't remember the animal, but it's certainly about a wild cat prowling up and down that is tamed. It's caged. So Untamed is about how we as women need to learn to be uncaged. And and Untamed, which is fantastic. And you said it was Happy Mum, Happy Baby by Giovanna Fletcher. Yeah. I'm going to have to add that one to my wish list and listen to that on Audible as well, because I haven't. And is her I know she's got a podcast. It's the same name, is it?
Yes, podcast actually called the same thing, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's some good recommendations for anyone who wants to do some listening and some learning. And of all the things that you have learned over the years in business, what would you say, just in a business sense, not necessarily in relation to motherhood, but in a business sense, what would you say is the most important thing to do in your business?
Ooh, can I have two?
Go on.
So first one, don't undervalue yourself. I was working for a long time where I wasn't making any money because I just didn't have my pricing right. And I had a lot of money blocks, and I was worried about putting my prices up and that people wouldn't pay it. But actually, I just needed to have a different client base, and people do pay it now at the levels that my pricing packages are. And it's not extortionate money compared to the whole market. I still have a few money blocks to get through, but I now feel like what I have in income matches the time that I put in. And that took a little while to get to. And my second one is, don't try and do things you don't have the skills for in terms of like the wider business. So I kind of say, oh yeah, I do everything myself. I do my website, I do this, I do that, I do my money. And actually, I'm not the best person to do all those things because I don't have the knowledge and the skills. So do kind of reach out and find the best person to do all of those different aspects. I'm a bit of a control freak. So, and I know you are. So I do like to have control of most of the elements of my business. And you know, I've worked with other people who've supported me or taught me different elements. So for example, I've just redone my website, and I did actually take on help to do that this time, even though I've built my website previously all by myself and I can do all the changes. I was running up against little technical things that I didn't have the knowledge for. And I just went, right, I'm paying somebody else. This is their expertise. This is their field, and they will make this awesome. And then I can take back control to do the changes and things myself in the future. And it was absolutely worth it. I'm so pleased I did it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I'm very guilty the same of being, as you say, a bit of a control freak. I like to know what's going on in every area of my business. And for that reason, I do struggle to outsource. And I know it's something a lot of people struggle with. And as a virtual assistant myself, I shouldn't really be saying that, but it's a reality that we do like to have control of our business. But at the same time, it's also important to learn to recognize, as you say, when something is better outsourced to someone who has those skills. That's a really important one. Thank you. That's two absolutely brilliant tips. And before we finish, can you tell us where we can find you?
Of course. Great brain. So my website's just had a complete revamp, and that's actually going live in May, so it's very, very soon. And that is www.vbowdenphotography.co.uk. You can also find V Bowden Photography on Facebook and Instagram. And then Early Years Mum is earlyyearsmum.co.uk, and also Early Years Mum on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely chatting to you, Vicky. And I will make sure that all of those links go in the show notes so that people can find you in all of the various places where you hang out, if they want to come and check out what you do. Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us here at Business Foundations for Mums. Come and join the Business Planning Challenge for Mums to create a plan to drive your business ideas forward. The challenge starts on Monday, the 21st of March in a private Facebook group. Find the link to join in the show notes. You can find all of our episodes, show notes, and blog posts at businessfoundationsformums.co.uk, and you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook.